Hi, my name is Peter Levine, Peter A. Levine. I'm the developer of somatic experiencing, body-oriented approach to the resolution of traumatic experience. And I am author of a number of books, from Waking the Tiger to In an Unspoken Voice and to Trauma and Memory. And so I'm here to give you some of my thoughts, some of my reflections around trauma. This takes us probably to the first question, which is, what is trauma? What makes a trauma a trauma? And let me just start by saying that we, as mammals, have 5 basic defense responses when we're exposed to threat. We have fleeing, fighting, freezing, collapsing, and then there's one more, which is about attachment. Now, when we're really small, when we're infants, when we're babies, even when we're toddlers, we're really not able to fight or to flee. And so what we do is we attach. But there's a big problem when the people who are supposed to protect and love and cherish us are the ones that are harming us. Then we're in this bind because our basic mode is to attach, but then we do attach to danger. And you see, these are usually the antecedents of people who have pretty severe trauma. But let's go back to the 4 main ones. So fleeing, fighting the source of the threat, freezing in fear, or collapsing in resignation. What happens in trauma is we get stuck in either fight or fleeing or freezing or collapsing. And when we're stuck in those states, that is equivalent to trauma. Again, the one that's different is the attachment. Now, we need attachment. We need healthy attachment. But again, the crisis occurs when the attachment figure, the caregiver, supposedly the caregiver, our parents or caregiver, when they are harming us, then our body just doesn't know what to do. So those are what I think really categorizes trauma. What happens in trauma, and we take to the next step of what goes on in the body. When I first started developing somatic experiencing in late 60s, early 70s, I was unfortunate. No, I take that back. I was fortunate to not know that trauma was a brain disorder, a brain disease that couldn't be cured, that could be just be managed with drugs or to help people try to change their negative thoughts. And of course, trauma is something that does go on in the brain, goes on in the mind, but primarily it goes on in the body. And I think, if anything, this is the key to what I'll be presenting today. So when we see something, let's just say you open the door and you see somebody just being injured, being hit on a bicycle or something like that. And we go, ugh, well, that's something that's going on in the body. It's that twisting in the guts. And if that twisting doesn't ungo, then we hold that on. And especially when it's been repeated, that gets stuck in our body and often results in symptoms like irritable bowel and so forth, and chronic fatigue. There's another example. Again, we're frightened and we protect ourselves by tensing our shoulders and tensing our fists. Now, this could be mobilizing us to fight. But again, if it's all dressed up but with nowhere to go, it just keeps replaying itself. Now, I'll talk more specifically when we get to the polyvagal theory. But what happens is our body is giving feedback to the brain. So again, when we see something that's really horrible, we go, ugh, that's in our gut. We see something that we need to protect ourselves from, we go like this. But there are receptors that are in our guts, receptors that are in our muscles that actually feed back up to the brain, to primitive portions of the brain that detect threat, detect danger. And so it keeps replaying itself. And if we can break this, I call this a positive feedback loop with negative consequences, then we can stop the trauma from being recycled from brain to body and body to brain. And again, that's one of the basic principles in somatic experience. So working with the body is, in my opinion, is absolutely essential in healing trauma. We have to be able to get new signals from our bodies, to create new experiences in our bodies that contradict those of overwhelming helplessness, threat and overwhelming helplessness, which is what happens in trauma. So again, we need to find ways to have new experiences. And I'll demonstrate a couple of exercises later on that you can use for yourselves and also use with your clients to help settle what's going on in the body and as a way of regulating also what's going on in the mind. When a person is traumatized, they're unable to be in the here and now. In a way, you could say, if you want to use a disorder analogy, you could say that that trauma is a disorder in not being able to be in the present moment, because trauma robs us of that. And again, when we use approaches that bring us more and more into our present experience, then we're able to put more and more of the trauma behind, put it back where it belongs, so it's not robbing us of our presence and of our basic vitality. So, trauma constricts our whole life process by taking us out of the here and now, by making the here and now an impossibility. It really robs life, because so much energy is invested in maintaining our defense systems that we're unable to really be with other people and interact with other people and feel empathy for a person towards you. All of those avenues become shut off. It's like, in a way, like a water faucet. When it's turned off, there's no flow. And in order to get flow, you have to turn it on. And that's what we do certainly in somatic experiencing, but I think in other approaches too, which have a body-oriented slant. Again, I'm going to go back to this probably to bore you to death. But again, I think without being able to understand what goes on in the body and to work with the body and to work with how the body's feeding back to what's going on in our brain, we're limited in what we can do. And by the way, I'm not against cognitive approaches. I'm actually a fan of CBT and especially CPT, but they're top-down approaches. Body-oriented somatic experiencing is a bottom-up process. We're working from our sensations, and from our sensations to our different affects, our feelings, our emotions, and then to forming a coherent narrative that we can tell to ourselves that give us a context for what we've experienced, what our journey is like, where we are right now, and how we can envision a future different than the past.